Hey everybody, it's Ron at Becoming Enlightened Together. So we're doing a reading for today, Monday the 25th. I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it. So the overall energy for the week is that of Awas in the upright. It's a very powerful rune. It's about protection and defense. It talks about the yew tree, which is very important in terms of Nordic mythology beliefs, shamanism, and things of that nature. Okay, it talks about rebirth and quests as well, success and strength, somebody who's reliable and can be depended upon, and that, of course, is you, the collective. It talks about in terms of having the drive to succeed, or seeing something that you have your sights set upon and going for it and achieving that goal. So your goal's being achieved. And basically, like I was saying, just an honest person that can be depended upon. So we have to be very careful, because in this week we see that somebody is very potentially coming back, and those are not the people that I'm referring to in terms of being able to trust or depend upon. Okay, they're not the honest people I'm referring to. So use your intuition, no matter what the words that are coming from their mouth. How do they make you feel? If something feels off, it is. Okay, so trust your intuition, trust your gut. That's part of this test at this final juncture of our mission, or this cycle. Alright, so that is the overall energy for the week. Now, as we saw yesterday for the overall, energy that, we have per this week, we have 4 out of the 7 days where the energy is completely devoted to the karmics. And this is one of those days. So what we have here is the god Freyr's rune, or Ing, as it's often called as well. And the rune itself is called Ingwas. And this one is in the reverse. Ordinarily in the upright it talks about things masculine, okay? In terms of your physical attributes, characteristics, traits, and abilities, it's very positive. But in the reverse, it talks about somebody who's impotent. And again, that refers not just to being able to procreate, but also create anything for that nature, job, or anything of any import. So somebody who's basically scattered, somebody who's extremely self-absorbed, narcissistic in many ways, somebody who moves without any real change being produced as a result. So it's all more or less for the benefit of those who are viewing. Again, just like any narcissist, they put on a big show for everybody else. They're not doing things, for the right motives. They're not acting in a state of authenticity. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. So anyway, this is basically somebody who's disassociated with their environment. Somebody who is all bottled up, stagnant. Somebody who's coming in with the art of seduction. So maybe they're very nice to look at from the outside. Maybe they've gotten away with using their feminine or masculine charms the majority of their life to get what they want. But it doesn't work with the collective. Okay. Well, hopefully you'll be able to overcome it. Not everybody out there, of course, is going to be able to overcome these types of, I'll just say attacks, because they're tests. So in a sense, it is an attack. It's an attack upon your beliefs. I'll just leave it at that. So just keep that in mind, and be prepared in advance, because that's part of what's coming in. It's also talking about somebody who deliberately is coming in with the mindset of trying to fool whoever they're referring to, i.e. you, into believing that they've done the work, that they are, much further along in their journey than they in fact really are. Okay, so they move again without actual anything being achieved in actuality. And in fact, part of that movement is just the initial stages of doing their inner work, or the shadow work, so to speak. And they believe that because they started to do it, that it's done. And it's almost laughable, to those who have gone through it for years and years and years and realize it's a daily thing and persists for the entirety of your life. It never ends. So meaningless motion is a big part of this. That was the past energy for today. Now our present energy is a little bit more positive in terms of Wunyo being in the upright. It's the wishing room. Okay, so it talks about the wind, which is basically expressing the intellect in terms of divination, our ability to think and reason and all that kind of stuff. But it also talks about harmony and joy and bliss, desire, pleasure, ecstasy, prosperity, glory, spiritual rewards, but with the possibility of going over the top if you're not careful. So remember, ego is always, right there. So we have to be very conscious of that. But it does tell you that success is imminent otherwise, and that you are becoming more and more aware and recognizing your own self-worth. And it's vitally important. I didn't realize how important it was. I mean, I always thought it was basically a narcissistic tendency, and yes, of course, when it's, done in a low vibrational way, it is narcissistic. But when it's done, in the proper way of loving yourself, really understanding that to nurture yourself, you have to take care of yourself so that you can, in fact, help others. That's a godly love. Alright, so that's basically the present energy that we are in. But our obstacles and challenges are that of Ewas. And Ewas is in reverse. Okay? Now, Ewas, basically, again, it talks about journeying, just like Raidho that we saw, for yesterday's energy. Talks about long journeys and sudden changes and bad timing. It talks about perhaps feeling the want and need for change in our life. We backed ourselves into a corner, so to speak, because of our bad decisions. So somebody feeling restless, possibly cornered, confined, and they're acting in a reckless haste, doing whatever it takes impulsively instead of actually thinking about their moves. Somebody who is, under a great deal of mistrust of all those around them, and perhaps, very, it's probably warranted, I'm sure. But they themselves have been also, dealing with a lot of lies and deception. So, it is what it is. So disharmony is a part of that, and of course betrayal is inevitable as well. No honor among thieves. Well, some of these people, that's how they've pretty much gotten by the majority of their life, in one way, shape, or form. That's the way it is. So our help and advice is also Ewas, but Ewas is in the reverse in this case. And that talks about, instead of forward movement, protection, defense, and all the blessings that come with that, it talks about stagnation. It talks about, an undoing, somebody who's inactive, somebody who's tense and confused, self-destructive in many cases. Somebody who's completely dissatisfied with, their situation. And they're weak and feeling defeated at this point. Like I said, the house of the karmics are crumbling down. And the reason that this is under help and advice, because, sometimes pain is our greatest teacher. And these are like last-ditch efforts after just, in some cases, years and years of attempting to get through to some of these people. This is like the last-ditch effort of, from source to get through, from their ancestors to get through to these people, so that at the very last second, maybe some of them, can change, their evil ways, come out of this mess that they've created. That doesn't mean that they're going to be free of the repercussions of their earlier, decisions and actions. It doesn't, but it's the beginning of stopping, adding more rocks to, if you will, or whatever that, straw that the camel's back kind of scenario, where instead of adding more and more karma, you're now starting to slowly work out that karma. That's kind of what it's alluding to, or at least potentially it could, depending on the decisions of those that this is really for. Now, the future outcome for the karmic, in this particular case that I'm reading for, is that of Malthus. It's hard to see these pink stones, these quartz. Okay, so Malthus, again, it looks like a cross, with the cross being slightly canted, and again, they look the same both up and reverse, but this one is in the reverse as well. And it talks about going in the wrong direction. Of course, if you're in the karmic energy, that's exactly the truth, isn't it? You made all your decisions based on a direction that you wanted to go that was based on all the wrong motivations. And now you found that you've taken the path most traveled. And it's gotten you basically, again, to use Christianity as a metaphor here, into the road of hell, instead of to that road less traveled, that gets you to the other direction, so to speak. So this is somebody who's also very possessive at this point. They may be possessive of their feelings for you. You may not have any understanding of what they feel for you. And maybe they've never told you how they feel for you. But again, they're doing it right now out of a way of getting themselves out of this situation they put themselves in. So there's an inappropriate constraint of freedom. They may be doing that to others. They themselves may be also a victim of this. And that could be somebody who's locked up behind bars, whatever the case may be. It talks about, a feeling of distress and drudgery. Basically, all of their needs are not being met, so a state of want and deprivation, starvation, and poverty, as well as emotional poverty or hunger. Like I said, it's not a pretty picture that's being painted for, those who have chosen to go the other direction, or, walk the karmic journey, so to speak. The universe favors the bold, favors those who have the courage, the strength, the endurance, the fortitude, all of the leadership traits, attributes, and characteristics that you can look up for yourself. You'll find that those things will propel you forward in the spiritual journey, or this journey of life in general. But if you choose to take the easy way out, to take what is not yours, something you didn't do anything to work for, if you're out there sleeping with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and, all of these things because you have no self-control whatsoever, then the repercussions of your actions are sure to find you, whether it's in the form of a venereal disease or unwanted pregnancy, or just having your reputation completely tarnished in whatever shape or form. Some people's health is going to be completely destroyed. Some people are even going to pass away. They are going to perish as a result of their actions. And they're losing everything materialistically that they've tried so hard to hold on to. They're going to lose their reputations as well. So, if you are in the collective, most of us probably take no joy in this, of knowing this, even though these people have made us their enemies without reason or cause. Now they're paying the price for that. So let's just hope and pray, if you have a mind to do so, that some of these people will actually, even if it's the last moment, see the error of their ways and find their way out of the mess that they've created. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean you have to take this person or people back into your life. That doesn't mean that at all. But, if you can help and you have the heart to do so and trust your own gut, everybody's situation and circumstances are going to be different. So, if you feel the need or the urge to do so, then by all means, do so. But if you don't, that is your decision to make. Again, I hate to use the words from Rambo, but they drew first blood, so to speak. And you took it for a long, long time, and you kept getting up. So the universe recognizes that kind of courage, just like we, on a materialistic or human level, recognize and look up to people who do the same thing in the material world. Okay? So I would say it's time to find your courage and stand up and do that which is right. Okay? Stop doing the cowardly thing. That's all I got to say. This is specifically for the karmics that are out there in our lives. So for the collective who watches this, you need to know what they're going through. You need to know that basically their masks are coming off. They're being literally ripped off. So everything that they've tried and successfully kept hidden from the world for the longest time is going to be shown again. Everything that I recall now from Christianity seems to be very true. I mean, it does. And I'm not talking about every single word from the books, but I'm saying many of the words, especially from the words of Yeshua himself, are coming back and they are manifesting in reality in this world, in my life in particular, but I'm seeing it in the collective's life as a whole. So, again, I'm seeing truths that, in my mind, my opinion, are universal truths because they're truths that are echoed in every religious belief system, and again, occult belief systems, esoteric, hermetic belief systems, all of them. If you look at them as a whole, then you're going to see certain things that mirror one another, regardless of what heading, title, or whatever the case may be. You may find them in, whether it's a secret society or order, or it's in the actual exoteric texts of some religion. Okay, those to me are the truths. I'm always looking for truth in a world that's filled with lies. And again, those are words that come right out of the prophecy of what we can see from a Christian standpoint in what we would call the so-called last days or whatever. Now, are these indeed the last days? Everything seems to be pointing to it, whether they're being force fulfilled or not. I can't say that with a certainty, but it does seem to be falling into place from the players who are now involved in all the things that we're seeing overseas right now with Iran and Russia and China, with Israel especially. Israel is the focal point of Christianity in terms of the book of Revelation. So, and we're seeing a lot of things about what I would call the synagogue of Satan, because they are, in the book of Revelation it talks about special damnation for those who called themselves Jews but were really not. And we see that reality in terms of the Zionistic movement that is taking control and committing the atrocities that we see in Palestine, for example. I know this is my point of view, but I have a lot of information to prove what I'm saying. I'm not just saying it, just to vent. So to each their own, and I'm not going to get angry with somebody who has a different opinion. That's your right to do so, and I champion that right, and I protect that right. In fact, it is part of our constitutional amendments and so on. The First Amendment, to be specific. So even though that has been all but destroyed, I believe individually that it's still very important that people have the right to speak their truth. But there are repercussions for the things that we say as well, so we have to be ready to, accept the repercussions of the words that we use, especially if we're saying them in error. I know that I'm not, because I back up everything that I say with a multitude of, sources, resources, and everything else. It's not just an opinion. It's an opinion I've come to as a result of all the other facts that I put together on that subject. So, even though that's here nor there in this particular reading, I just want to say that even though that for the 7 days this week, I'm going to be addressing specifically the karmics in our life, or at least telling you where they stand in terms of what's being dished out to them. It's important that we remember and not let ego take over in our lives, okay, as the collective. And again, that'll be different for each and every one of you out there, for every circumstance or situation, that you are out there going through, because it's different for all of us, right? So, and I wish you all the very best. I pray that you make the right decisions, And even if you make mistakes, remember, just like you probably have countless times along the way, that's why you're in the collective. Lift yourself up, dust off your boots, keep marching forward. And every time they knock you down, you get right back up, right? You don't stay down. That's important. So with that being said, I'm proud to be, along with you guys in this journey, this collective journey of spiritual enlightenment and growth. So take care, stay victorious, and I'll catch you tomorrow with another reading. Take care.